Hey everyone, Stephen. So a couple days ago, I was reading a book on Ivan Chadaev, Chaadaev, Chadaev, Ivan Chadaev. Probably pronouncing it badly, but that's okay. Um, and uh, and he was Russian, obviously. He's in the late 1700s, early 1800s. And he's sort of defining modern Russian thought. He's a philosopher, although he's really a theologian too. I guess if you're Russian, you kind of are both, no matter what, um, seemingly. But there was the European influence, which became a big issue in Russia. You know, are we the old Rus? Are we the Moscow? Or are we the modern European St. Petersburg? Right? St. Petersburg was literally built to bring European influence and modernize Russia. But then it led to issues because we had these European sophisticated thinkers and or sophisticated, with the sort of the European mode of thought in St. Petersburg, and these intellectuals, and then the rest of the country is rustic, you might say. So that, of course, that led to a lot of issues. But he was reconciling it back in the very beginning. He saw the pluses and the minuses of both, and he didn't see it as a European is all plus or European is all minus. But he was evaluating the pluses and minuses, and how would we integrate Europe into Russia and get the best of both, right? The best of our Russian heritage and the best of the European influence. Of course, it rarely works out that way, but he's a philosopher, right? So that's what he's trying to map out a method of doing this. And it's interesting because the philosophers that were immediately influenced by him afterwards, I think they're called the Sophiologists, after Sophia, studying divine wisdom. Immediately took sides. Immediately said Europe is all bad, and we should stick to our Christian Russian roots. Anyway, Chadaev was just reading along, and it was very interesting. And then all of a sudden, there's this very interesting, out of the blue statement that he had made, as reported to me by the author of this book. But I think it was a direct quote. And he was going into consciousness. And of course, that's an interesting topic on the science side too. There are a lot of ideas out there that in the quantum world, where there's this consciousness aspect to it, and lots of ideas on this. That what's causing this insurmountable void between the quantum world and our thermodynamic world. The collapse of the wave function, or whatever you want to call it, is caused by consciousness. So, and I think I talked a little bit about that in a video, probably 25 videos ago. But anyway, so you can look back and see. And I've never been very big on the idea, but in this, Chadaev was saying that consciousness is conscious. Our conscience, right? Consciousness is our conscience, which sounds duh enough, but we don't really think that way, because our conscience tells us what is right, what is wrong, what have we done that needs to be fixed. How can you improve yourself? But through reflection. So consciousness is a reflective type of thought, and your conscience is reflecting in a sort of I guess you might say, a moral way about, but also I think a practical way, what went wrong, and your conscience makes you feel bad for your error, and so you can work your way towards a correct way of thinking or doing. through this sort of semi-emotional, right? The conscience is kind of an emotional. It's judgy, but it's not philosophically judgy. It's moralistically judgy, right? So that gives us, I think, the feels, right? It gives us this sort of emotional charged quality to it. So we think of consciousness, right, as this sort of this activity that allows us to view the world in this unique reflective way. But Chadev is insisting that that it's a mode of your conscience, that it's a mode. It's more moralistic than you realize, and maybe in a world where you forget God, you don't see your consciousness as moral because you've released the moral imperative from the equation, and so it's not coming up. But consciousness is conscience. Might not be a bad way of going. That the way that we do this reflective thought, that it's actually not this completely internal mental state. You know, your brain has microtubules where quantum activity takes place, and so we get this this is the Penrose idea, right? The Roger Penrose, that we get this insight. We get this insight into the world that we call consciousness through this quantum activity that's giving us a bridge, a mental bridge from the quantum to the thermodynamic. And that bridge is literally the consciousness that we feel. That consciousness is what is it? Why can't we pin it down? Well, if it's quantum, it would make sense why we couldn't pin it down. It's really tiny, and it's acting in a way, an outside of time way that we cannot comprehend. So, yeah, but this idea of consciousness as conscience, is in opposition to the Penrose idea. We have the Chadev, early 1800s Russia idea, that your conscience is it's more moralistic, right? It'll make you feel bad if you do something wrong, and what is that? What is this feeling bad thing, if not some kind of moral judgment? So. And maybe the way we don't think about that in our modern world so much is because we've excluded the idea of a judging God from our way of thinking so much that we don't feel it anymore. It's there, but we don't recognize it because we've decided that the color blue doesn't exist, and we're so convinced it doesn't exist that we don't see the blue. Or my favorite one is the idea that yeah. So there's that. So consciousness as conscience. So some sort of interrelationship between you and a moralistic agent. So we would hopefully say God, and that this consciousness is more of is acting from outside of us more than we realize. I'm not denying that we are participating in it. Obviously we are. But if it's conscience, and if that's why we can get this bad feeling when we've made errors, and maybe the error doesn't make sense, it's just this little moralistic error, what's the big deal? But your conscience is like, no, that's a bigger deal than you realize. I have a greater understanding of how this all goes than you do, so I'm going to make you feel bad, and you're going to act right. So more of an emotional content to it. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking today. Thanks.